What's happening, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Strange Road. I'm your host, Mikey, riding solo tonight. We got Bub traveling for work this week, so he's not with us. Wish him the best and safe travels, but we do have Stoner, the loner and master control tonight. Thank him for making everything look and sound great. We appreciate each and every one of you guys out there that's been watching, listening, rating. You've been listening. We hear you. You want more episodes. You want more good content. I know you guys are checking out the shorts and the reels and the TikToks and all the stuff we've been doing on social media. We're making a push. We've got amazing episodes in the can. We've been working down here, and we know that each and every one of you guys, we wouldn't be doing this without you. So much love. Don't forget to hit that like, subscribe. You got to hit that notification bell. Really, really helps the algorithm. You guys are constantly subbing in YouTube, so much love to all of those people that have come in the last few months and the last 2 years. You guys have been awesome. It's been a weird start to 2025 already, guys. It's only a few days in. This episode's going to air here in a few days, but we're just barely into the year 2025, and we already have tragedies in New Orleans. We have tragedy that happened in Las Vegas on New Year's Eve. We've got this mysterious fog that everybody's talking about on X and TikTok and social media everywhere. I know, I don't know about you guys, but I have a ton of people that I know that have all gotten weird bronchial, nasal congestion, people getting the flu. Not sure if it's this creepy fog, but the UAP phenomenon has not slowed down. And I know a lot of you and all the media people are all talking about drones. Let's not forget it, guys. There's a UAP phenomenon happening that's maybe being described as a drone phenomenon. This buzzword of that we're hearing constantly, drones. Well, what are these plasmoids? What are all these other things that we're seeing? These drones seem like they're tracking potentially, but 2025 is going to be an unbelievable year, and you guys are going to go along the ride with us. With that said, let's invite in our guest tonight, author and researcher and teacher, Jaclyn Amanda. Jaclyn, welcome to The Strange Road. Appreciate you so much. How you doing tonight?
Hi, Mikey. I'm doing pretty good. Despite the craziness in the world.
I know. I'm so glad that we're reconnecting. We met you and your teacher a few years back at an interesting event in California. And it was a pleasure to meet you guys. We did some interviews and got to interview a whole bunch of amazing people that weekend, including your teacher. And so we had a blast, and we've kept in contact. But lately, with everything going on with this, what I'm calling straight up, and after talking to you guys and confirming it, is a UAP phenomenon. It's a lot more than just drones happening. People are seeing these big, large SUV-sized drones. The other day, we saw maybe one that had crashed that they were pulling up on the back of a truck bed. Some guy followed one and watched one land on top of, basically looked like some kind of command center where it landed on top of this roof. And so you have that, but you also have some really interesting, really bizarre phenomena that is much harder to explain, that these silent craft, plasmoid balls, orbs, these things coming out of the ocean. And so, when we reconnected, we, were all asking questions. And so we wanted to have you on to maybe help us share a little bit about maybe what you think's happening. But first, I want to hear a little bit about yourself, and maybe we can chat a little bit about how we met.
Yeah. Lots of drone stuff happening. It's kind of like front and center for a lot of people right now. But it's also interesting that a lot of people haven't even heard of these like UAPs or drones. But I've been working with a team of scientists and researchers for probably over 12 years, doing high altitude readings and things like that. We have been collecting data, just what's above us, what's happening up there. One of my teachers and researchers has been studying this for 40 years or more, and collecting this data of what's beyond just this Earth, what's in our upper atmosphere, what's in our solar system. A lot of times we get stuck on what we're doing as humans on this planet day to day. So basically, that's how we met you guys. We were invited to an event out in California. It was supposed to be an event where we were disclosing information, and we were super excited to go that year. It was before the pandemic. I can't remember exactly when it was, but
May 2019.
May 2019.
Actually, I'm sorry. It was August 2019.
August.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah.
Right before. And oh my gosh, that's a wild thing, because I'll never forget this. But talking to your teacher and you guys, one thing you said was, well, we really have to get some information out because in March of 2020, you're not going to be able to travel or do anything. And you guys said that. And I was like, what? And then here we are, mid-March, the whole world shut down with COVID. I'm like, oh boy, this is really, really bizarre. But that's what I remember is it was meeting you guys right before, because that was a major thing was, hey, this is going to happen in 2020. And boom.
Boom, there it was. It was 2019 was pretty intense for us. We got invited to a lot of places around the world to share this research and these teachings, and it was most interesting, I think, because when we went to those events, the people weren't really interested in that actual research. So I think, Mikey, you were the first one who was actually like, hey, I want to learn more, after an interview we did with my teacher. So that's how we kept in touch, and we had wanted to meet up and share some more in person. We get a little nervous with the online sharing things that way. All this information is governed by a council, so we're cautious about what goes out when and how. But yeah, we had made that plan to meet up, and the whole world shut down, so we weren't able to see you at that time. Then came the whole pandemic, and the whole world was shut down. But I remember my teacher talking about, this is the time to get this information out because something's going to happen in the world that people will listen more. And, a lot of times what we're up against in the world, we're looking for truth. A lot of people are into football, and there's church going on, and all these different beliefs, and just the way that people are brought up and what they're looking at, and there's jobs, and they're going to work, and we don't have a lot of time to actually sit or think or research what the truth is. And then boom, there's the pandemic. All the football stadiums are empty. All the churches are closed. People aren't going to work. And it was this time of just the silence, and people were looking. There was a moment where the whole entire world changed. This is a world event that affected the entire world. And that was one of the things we have been preparing for. Now we're beyond that somewhat, just that initial hit, and we've made a change in the world. I don't know if it's better or worse, but people do things differently, think differently. So now this other world event, these drones. So my teacher had been talking about them. And you're calling them UAPs. They used to be called UFOs. like, what are these
Yeah.
things? They're like people that I talk to. They're like, oh yeah, those are just drones. Those are, it gives it like a man-made kind of a thing, like even if it's unmanned. And so it's almost like we've been pacified. I think our government is trying to, well, maybe there's kind of a split in the government where, I don't remember when that event was, Mikey, when you came out to Sedona with us.
Yeah.
20,
That was 2021. 2021. Yep. Me and Stone and my boy Ron. And actually, can we just take a little pause? I just wanted to, I'm hearing a little bit of background noise in the background. I don't know if some folks in the room are moving around or shuffling around, but the mic's picking up quite a bit of ambient and just rustling. And kind of opening doors and closing. That's okay. I know you have some folks hanging out with you. Okay. Well, he can't sit still for nothing, can he? Hey, I'm that way too. You know how hard it is for me to sit in this chair without, like, Stoner's like, you're driving me crazy. You can't sit still. Well, my third grade teacher actually took me and Bub in third grade. We had an amazing teacher. And looking back, she was my favorite teacher because she was strict with us, but she eventually got through to us. She would read us the best stories, Maniac McGee, James and the Giant Peach, so many great books. But we would stand up all the time and constantly moving around. And finally, she just took our chairs away. And then she didn't realize that. I was like, great, this is awesome. Now I don't have to sit down. And so, like, everything she tried to do, we would do the opposite of. But Mrs. Bowman, shout out to you. Amazing teacher. But I totally understand. But okay, so Jaclyn, you were talking about the pandemic, everything. Basically, people that are changing, whether it's good for good or bad. You guys were doing events. We came out to Sedona, me and Stone and my boy Ron, and we helped you guys put on an event there that actually Clifford Mahooty was supposed to be a part of, but he ended up getting COVID. And then Clifford passed away not too long after that, from what I remember. But your teacher and Clifford were, I think, became, close and friends, and but just an amazing guy. But that's what that event was really, really interesting. And just being in Sedona is such a beautiful place.
Yeah, and it is such a beautiful place. And it was also right before then, the government had released the document, and it was about the UAPs. And they were saying in this document that, yes, in fact, there is something out there that we don't know what it is. And so they released this document during this time where people are so like pointed towards the pandemic or what's happening, not towards like UAPs or what the government's doing or talking about. So It's really interesting timing on the release of that.
Right.
A lot of people would be, like, oh my gosh, like the government finally said something. We've been pushing for disclosure for so long. And then, here's this document, and yeah.
Very anticlimactic. Very anticlimactic. Anybody that was in the know, or anybody that's been following this stuff or really paying attention, were just, oh my gosh, this is going to change everything. And then it did nothing. It didn't affect anybody, nobody. And even when last year, the big congressional hearing with David Grush and Ryan Graves, and they were talking about the Tic Tac and the New York Times article, and we thought, whoa, we can look back to 2023 and go, wow, that was a huge step. 2021, like you said, those documents were released, but before that was 2017 with the New York Times article that came out on Thanksgiving, by the way. So nobody read that 2017 article until years later. when all these people they refer to 2017 New York Times article. Now everybody knows about it and it's a huge deal. But when it actually happened, it was on Thanksgiving, and I'm sitting around telling my aunts and uncles, you have no idea what just happened. Like, the biggest thing ever. Like, essentially, some parts of the government, their mainstream media is actually talking about UFOs in the public, and they're not being shamed or ridiculed for it. But that all flew under the radar. If you remember NDAA Section 1031, that was passed on Christmas Eve. The Patriot Act was passed on Easter. So this is something that is over and over again. They release this stuff when nobody's paying attention, and even worse was the pandemic. So you're correct. But we've been on this kind of evolution for so long that, again, you have more congressional hearings, you have Senate hearings, the head of Aero, which was a few months back or less than a month ago, where the head of Aero was up in front of the Senate, and we have a new head of Aero, so it seems like he's kind of being more forthright, but the former head of Aero was a real piece of work. That guy wasn't saying anything and discrediting all of these people's sightings and witnesses and calling it swamp gas again. So I want to get your opinion on where are we right now? Are all of these things a really big deal? Because to me, it feels like this is huge, but I don't think people understand how big it is. For 10 years from now, they're going to look back and go, 2023 was a big deal. The end of 2024 with all these UAP drone phenomenon, that was a big deal. It's just people didn't realize it yet.
Yeah, I think that where we are right now is a pretty big deal. I mean, we have a lot going on in the government. We have the push for the UAP transparency. So, we go from UFOs to UAPs, where they're actually saying that they can detect something, they can measure it or see it. And now we have this other thing coming up where they're kind of pushing drones. So there's like two different sides, like trying to pacify us, I think, to make us maybe not aware of what's going on above us. But then this other side, like really pushing for truth and disclosure. Of course, we have a new president that's coming in on Martin Luther King Day, January 20th. And so, yeah, just it seems like a lot's going to happen. I'm not sure what's going to happen with the U.S. government. It sounds a little...
Let me ask you. So you said you kind of have two teams. You have groups right now like Tim Burchett and, Congresswoman Luna and some of these folks that, maybe we can say they're the good guys or the bad guys or whatever you want to say, but they're pushing for answers. They're being withheld access to these skiffs. They're being denied information. So it seems like you have a faction of the government that's really trying to push for disclosure. Who are these other folks? Are you allowed to talk about that? Can we speculate on, people want to, call them the deep state or whatever it is, but is it the military industrial complex? Is it, these kind of, where did all this money go? The Pentagon budgets. I mean, you're talking how many trillions of dollars that they can't find? What is it, like 3 trillion? Well, it's not that they can't find it. That money went somewhere, right? I mean, are we talking about somebody that may be developing super advanced technology that isn't necessarily the government, but is kind of like these aspects of maybe companies that are really connected in with these, kind of more secretive parts of what we can call the military? Or it's so hard, right? Because it could be so many things, but what do you guys think is happening and who might those factions be? And what are we up against here?
Yeah. I don't know if I would know for sure. Whatever those powers to be are, I think there's a lot of different layers to what's going on. There's a lot here that we don't see. There's other civilizations that have been here among us for millions of years, and like so much that's been hidden from the people of the world, from different parts of the government. So I don't know who's working with who, but I think there's a bigger war that's going on that we just aren't aware of. It's been happening, and yeah, we're just like, we have our cell phones, we're looking down, we're not looking up, we're not paying attention. We don't know what's going on in the government. Even people in the government don't know what's going on in other parts of the government. So
it's so big, it's so bloated, right? I mean, there's so many bureaucrats that fill up all these jobs. Like when you say the government's just people that we pay for their job, for them to have jobs. So the larger the government is, the more people you have that, you know, you always hear, well, the government's so inefficient, they could never hide anything from anybody. Not true. I mean, compartmentalization, there's many cases where they've been able to keep things secret. And we've never found out about the church committee hearings on the CIA. I mean, they went on for 30 years with mind control studies and all of these weird experiments forever. Nobody knew about it. So don't tell me you can't have these programs exist. But you know, you mentioned off-world, not even off-world civilizations. One of my feelings is that there's civilizations, if you will, or you know, in these hearings you hear NIH, non-human, or NHI, non-human intelligence, whatever you want to call them. But there's been, I think, some kind of beings that have been here forever. You know, do you feel that, or it doesn't seem like they're coming from somewhere else? I feel like they've been here forever.
Yeah, I would say that I would know that there are other civilizations here that have been here. We don't see them. They don't really make themselves known. Slowly, they are making themselves known. I mean, we're sharing this planet, right? So if we're going to destroy this planet, that's destroying it not only for us, but everybody else that lives here. So I think the further we get along in our technology and wars, I mean, it's pretty awful, like what we're doing as humans and just how we treat each other. We have to work really hard just for kindness, like every day in the grocery store, the gas station, like your everyday life. Like people have to work really hard to be kind.
Mm-hmm.
And like 7 million years ago, it wasn't that way. Our human spirit and our human body together, they were together as one. And then there was a split. So kindness, compassion, and happiness split from us. So we're trying really hard to do this kindness thing, to do kindness. It's an actual thing. It's not just a thought. What we've been working with is different technologies, and you've experienced some of them. That would be kindness. We've had teas and gatherings.
Mm-hmm.
Those are ways that we can use this technology. It comes from the ancients, from the ancient time. But there's also technologies that we can actually build, like resonators or structures that can help us. But yeah, the violence and the war is definitely a problem on the planet. And if it's going to continue like that, I think something's going to happen to change that, because we're not the only ones here.
It does seem like they kind of show up when there's, whether it's the nuclear testing back in the 40s, Manhattan Project gets created. Next thing you know, you got Roswell. You had the incident in Brazil that predated Roswell. You have the incident in Italy, I think, which was like 1938. That was like the European. So it seems like they kind of show up maybe when, you know, are they checking us in some way? Because right now, I mean, whether you like it or not, the threat level for nuclear war at this point with Russia and China and what's going on in Ukraine and all over the world, there's a lot of people freaked out. I'm one of them. I try not to get concerned and have, fear, but the timing is interesting where you hear this threat level's gone up, and now you're starting to see all these things pop up, not just the drones. I don't know if you can talk a little bit about some of these maybe other type of, whether they're plasma balls, because a lot of people have been making the connection online here recently is some videos where a gentleman was talking about plasmoid structures, and basically like at different frequencies, they'll emit different kind of shapes and geometry. But it's not just drones people are seeing, these plasma balls. Is there anything with maybe the technology that you've researched or studied that maybe can lend a little bit of information into what is going on with these things that we're seeing?
Yeah. Well, I think we're pretty primitive as far as like the technology goes that we have. Like what we have is pretty amazing. We have cell phones and like all this equipment. We have cars and we've done all these things, but we're really far behind some of the other civilizations and the technology. As civilizations progress, like some of the other ones have technologies that are a lot smaller than what we have. Like we have a cell phone. Like what if that was just like a chip inside of us?
Mm-hmm.
It would look like telepathy. It would, look like these magical powers, but in fact, it would just be, a technology that's so small that you just can't see it with your own eyes or can't detect it. Some of the research that we've been doing is sending balloons up into the high atmosphere to collect data. It's like, how do you see the things that you can't see? Like if we're on the Earth, we don't look up that often. It's suggested in the teachings to look up because there's a lot going on above us. But, if something's up so far, we're not going to be able to see it with our eyes. We're limited. So we've been sending these balloons up, and they've sent at least probably more than 63 with different sensors on them. So cameras for video, audio. This research has been going on my teacher's been doing it for more than 40 years. So imagine how the technology has changed.
Mm-hmm.
Like the old big like camcorder, like trying to send up on a balloon.
The weight alone of the technology, the lightweight tech that you have now with GoPros and no doubt. Now, how high are you able to say how high are you able to get these balloons up?
They go up pretty high.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yes, because of the cameras and different sensors too on them, it would be all the way around, so it could look up, it could look down, side to side, can capture images, videos, audios. There's some that have been sent up with more ways to detect like different waves, radio waves, and different magnetic anomalies that happen in our upper atmosphere. So that data has been collected, and we've been looking at that over the years, and we can see and detect things. Some things that my teacher had detected 12, 15 years ago, the scientists are starting to see now. There's definitely something getting closer to our solar system that's been affecting our solar system, our sun, our planet. We talk about global warming, and a lot of people think, it's because we're using all these fossil fuels, and it just think like, well, the humans think we're so powerful that we can cause this global warming, but is that really us? The Earth has been warm before,
Sure.
but
And
maybe
cold.
there's some
And cold.
and cold,
And
yes.
hot. And cold. And then hot again. I mean, it's constant cycles of, we couldn't live during the dinosaur times because it was so unbelievably hot. There were magma flows and volcanoes. And I mean, there was so much carbon dioxide in the air, but trees and plants were able to grow massively from those times. So, it's the earth is in a rhythm. But yeah, I've kind of always wondered that. Methane from cows, as Bill Gates says, the cows are a real problem. The cows are, sending so much. It's like, really? Come on. Is it? I don't know. Is there climate? Yeah, the climate's changing, but it's always changed. So I'm with you.
We're the cows. I also heard the dinosaurs died from laughter, so I don't know how true that is.
I'd buy that before cows. Oh, man. So what is your guys' conclusion if you're able to talk about some of the things maybe that you've captured in terms of video and audio, and maybe could you help us kind of walk through or explain what some of that research is if you're able to?
Some of that research, yes. So it's pretty varied. So some of the information we've gotten are like radio waves, sound. We've got some videos and some pictures of things moving near the balloons. And with the larger array that was sent up, we'll send you a video of that one. That was collecting information on like gravitational waves and how that's affecting the Earth. And so through that, we were able to determine that there is something coming closer to our solar system that is affecting our sun, it's affecting other planets, it's affecting our Earth, affecting our climates. I don't know, like you're in Ohio, I'm in Maine. We've had like 70-degree days in November.
Mm-hmm.
It's like our weather is really different.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just like, yeah, it's just all over the place, very different.
Yeah.
There's something that's definitely making that fluctuate that way. And so that's one thing that we've really been focused on studying.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that a little bit because you hear about Nibiru, Planet X, the Black Sun, all of these things that people, Zachariah Sitchin, talks about Planet X and Nibiru and all these things from the Sumerian tablets. Could there actually be some type of planetoid that's large? Is it a black hole potentially? Is it another sun potentially? Is it another planet that's really large and has this huge, big giant path around its own orbit that comes back every now and then? Is there any hypothesis of what that could be? Because you do hear about this. This isn't the first time I've heard about this. So I'm just curious about maybe what could be causing that or what that could be.
Yeah, whatever it is, it's pretty massive. So yeah, I've heard about the Nibiru and some of those stories. I've heard, maybe there's another sun behind our sun that we can't see. This is much, I don't know if it'd be bigger, but denser. Much bigger, I guess. I'm kidding, but go ahead.
Yeah.
Much bigger and denser. Some things that we've been researching are like magnetars. I don't know, there's a lot of information on magnetars people are kind of putting online right now, studying them because like a magnetar is like super dense. It's like so dense. If it comes, so I don't know how close, but if it comes close to our Earth, even if we couldn't see it, the magnetic field would be so intense that it would blow out our cell phones, it would blow out all our electronics. And if it was close enough or strong enough, it could tear apart the entire Earth, like something that big. So we think maybe it's something along that magnitude that's been traveling closer to us.
Yeah.
It's still, I think it's still beyond where we can actually, detect it. But
Well, that's interesting you say that, because people talk about this pole shift that's happening right now, that the poles are shifting a little bit each year. And then we've heard in the past that major pole shifts, when you're talking about the precession of the equinoxes and some of these things where the electromagnetic field of the Earth changes. Right now in Ohio, how many times, Stone, have people been able to drive out of the city and see the northern lights in Ohio? And they're like, oh, beautiful lights. Like, no, that means that the electromagnetic system of the Earth, like, it's almost like having your shields go down. And those are cosmic rays that are coming in. And, in the northern part of that's where the electromagnetic field is the weakest. So that's why the further you go north, you can see the northern. We shouldn't be seeing that in Ohio. So it's funny you're saying that, because I have been noticing people talking about these pole shifts, the electromagnetic field of the Earth. It's really a topic that's coming up. And could this be some of the climate change, causing the climate change that we're seeing as well? It's interesting.
Yeah, for sure. I know the northern lights. We see them in Maine every once in a while, but we've had two major, the sky was completely red.
Yeah.
And that's in some of the stories and the prophecies. This red sky, blood red, and everyone's like, "Oh, it's so beautiful," and taking pictures and sharing, and I'm feeling so spiritual. But yeah, what is actually causing that? That might not be so beautiful. So we can actually predict those when they're going to happen again around a certain time. It's like the way my teacher described it, like a cloud from that larger thing kind of passing through. So it is affecting us. It's not just the sun. Like some people think that the northern lights are just the sun, but what is affecting our sun? What is affecting our Earth's magnetic field? And yeah, is that should we be concerned? I think we should be pretty concerned about it and pray. We should pray.
We should pray. Wow.
Yeah.
That's a bit unsettling. I mean, you bring up prophecy, and people want to poo-poo the prophecies, and it's this religious, this dogmatic thing. For us, we grew up Catholic in the area we grew up. We hear about the different prophecies and the prophets from the Bible. And anybody that's grown up seriously religious, you hear that, it's just kind of like, okay, yeah, prophecy. But, the white calf woman prophecy and the Hopi, the blue star prophecy, and you add it up and you research these and what they actually have said, and these things really do line up. And is it the end of the world like the Bible says, or have religions kind of use these prophecies in a way over the years to make people scared or freaked out? But when you talk about prophecy, what type of prophecies are you talking about that maybe you can get into from maybe your teacher's background or something that you've learned about the times we're in now, and if there's any kind of message that we should be aware of?
Oh, that could be a lot there. About this. So, the time that we're in right now, we are living in prophecy. I've been traveling with my teacher and listening and learning ever since 2012. And that's where some of these stories or prophecies were first shared. And we kind of take that a lot of different ways, depending on, the culture that we grew up in, the religions.
Mm-hmm.
People know about Nostradamus, but like how accurate are these? The prophecies that I've heard through my teacher are ones that have been shared through, ancient writings and through storytelling and oral tradition, but also through science and research. So it's interesting because when I first started listening, I went, all over the world, up to Canada, to the different reserves, just all over. And so I got to hear different parts of these stories, predictions, whatever you want to call them. And one of them was the story of the spider and the mouse. And in that story, there's a magic box, and the rainbow monster is going to steal the minds of your children. And you look around today, and what are the kids doing? There's like a whole generation called iPad kids. And so this story comes from, way before this, but, here's this magic box we're talking on. Like,
Wow.
how do I know you're real? You're in this box, this rainbow monster. The only way to beat that is to pull the tail. But yeah, if we look around, there's people looking down at their magic box. They carry it with them. The children have lost the connection with the earth and with the trees because they're like on these iPads to keep them safe.
Mm-hmm.
So that, that's part of the story. And then in the story, the man takes out a mask from the box and puts it on and never takes it off. So, when the pandemic hit, I remember my teachers in tears saying, this is it. This is the prophecy. You look around, everybody has their mask on, with their phones. And we
freaked out looking at the death count. Oh God, there's 100,000 more people died today.
Yeah, it just, there's it. And there's 27 things that, we're looking for. So these UAP sightings, that's, part of those prophecies. The president's, what's happening with that, that's, part of those prophecies too. So
election, like this election and everything that's kind of going on politically.
Before before Trump was even president, our teacher was talking about Trump being elected, and then saying that it was going to be 8 years he would be elected, for 8 years. There'd be attempts on his life. I would really be surprised if he makes it through the 4 years. But yeah, it's like these teachings go really deep. It's not just like, a cute story of a woodpecker, and there's more behind the spider and the mouse and the copper web around the world. It's like where those are cute stories, but we're actually like living it, and it's not so cute anymore. It's just a way to translate information from years ago. Like, how do you share that information over time? Give it to a storyteller that learns these stories as vibrational stories, so that when they're told, the people can listen and get that information that they need for their community, for the world, so that they can do something ahead of time. Like if we knew there was going to be a major catastrophe or earthquake somewhere in the world, like what if we knew that ahead of time and we could help people move out of the way? What if there's a dam that was going to break in China and a lot of people's lives would be at risk? Like if we knew that ahead of time, could we go and tell them so they could get out of the way? there's lots of little pieces to the stories, and but also a lot of like science and research, and like, the earth that we live on, like it's predictable. So if there's an earthquake in one part of the world, it's gonna affect the whole world. So then you can predict where the next one's gonna be. So major things that affect our world, but we're all in our little pockets. We're not connected as a global community.
That's right. Now, one thing you talked about, you mentioned, was the way of communication through, I guess you mentioned vibration, or almost like frequency, or we used to talk about this all the time on the show, that sound, frequency, this is the technology that is really missing from our culture. In that you look back in ancient times and the pyramids and the Mayans and the Egyptians, and sound seems to be so important. There's all of these, resonant chambers and different areas of pyramids where you can go into and you can get these certain frequencies and resonances, and that's just for ceremonial purposes. I've come to the conclusion that sound is just a really wild technology that we don't understand at all. And so is that what you're talking about when you talk about this vibrational way of communicating? That it's not necessarily writing it down, but more of how you essentially connect to a frequency, almost to be able to pull information in? Is that what you're talking about?
I think again we're limited as humans, especially with our English language.
Yeah.
So there's an ancient language that's not based on words. Like we have to learn, this is a table, this is a computer, this is a mouse, this is a door. It has nothing to do with what that thing actually is. It's something that we're naming it. The ancient languages are a vibrational language. So when you say that thing, you're actually saying the thing, like the volume of it, the size, the color, and like more of its history through time, how it's made, all in that sound. So there's more information in that, and where as humans we've lost that vibrational language. We're more like representational, I guess, of what we're talking about. So it's really hard for us to communicate effectively, because the word light, if you ask Siri or Google, like, what is light? You'll get a definition, and then they'll say, do you want to hear more? I'll say, yes, what is the next definition? And they'll keep going on. There's like 30 definitions of light. So it's like, how do we know what we're actually talking about? And that's, part of what we're doing is kind of relearning ways to do that, to listen. We need community to do that. So nothing is ever like single or alone or I. We have a community, and we can also build structures that can help us understand way more information than what we're able to do now. But it takes a little effort and some study and letting go of a lot of things to be able to get there.
Oh, I couldn't agree with you more. That we've got a long way to go. It seems like we're paddling up a creek without a paddle. A lot of times we're just working against the current. We're working against ourselves. We should be building pyramids. We should be, we shouldn't be having to clock in every day to go to work to participate in a system where, we're all, the whole world's run by debt and by oil and energy. It's like, should we already have this vibrational technology, this, people want to call it free energy, or, back to the UAPs, these craft are able to be up there for hours and hours and hours and hours and never come down, and they're coming out of the ocean. And if we are going to admit which they pretty much are right now, that yes, there's this technology that is coming out in Congress that we don't know how these things are flying around. We don't have the technology. Would we have to admit then that we're in a bull crap system where all of our energy needs forever to infinity could be met? And we don't have to contribute. And are we ready for that, Jaclyn? Because they don't think we are. Because I think we have to take that direction where we're not just building iPhones. We're going back to building pyramids in the Serpent Mound here in Ohio, and we're going to make that thing a calendar that lines up to the sun, the moon, Draco, and we're going to start building these amazing monuments again. But no, we're too busy fighting over elections and getting freaked out because there's drones in the sky and there's diseases in the air and creepy fog and potential terrorist threats and all this stuff that everybody is just trying to provide for their family and survive at this point.
Yeah. And like, who gave us this narrative? Who gave us this story? Maybe we are traveling around in a boat with no oars.
Yeah.
Not sure which way to go. But I think we have something better than the pyramids. I know, like, I've traveled and gone to Mexico and Peru and Greece, and I've looked at those ancient sites, and I see people at one of the pyramids in Mexico, and they're out there and they're like, oh, clap, and then it makes a chirp. And I sat there all day and watched people do this, and they paid tour guides.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, like, we just look like idiots.
At Chichen Itza.
Yeah.
Wank, 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 wank. Yeah. I was one of those people. I was like, well, I got to do it. I'm sitting there up at the
Maybe
pyramid.
I saw you there.
It's interesting. It's cool. We've had some archaeoastronomers on, archaeoacoustic guys that are researching the chambers in Malta, the hypogeums. They're trying to come to Ohio to, they're measuring these kind of low frequencies and, whether it's, the book talking about the Stonehenge Decoded, where there's basically like a diatonic scale of music that's encoded into these. And so these guys are really doing an amazing job. I'm not smart enough to understand all this technical stuff that they're doing. But again, sound, it seems to be the missing component in a lot of the technology that we're talking about here. And I don't know if do you guys have any idea of how these craft could be powered? What is this technology? With your research and everything that, maybe the stories, the prophecies, out of all the things that you've gathered, what are we looking at here?
I forget what it's called. We do have some idea of how they're powered. It's not like in our world we have our electricity and our fossil fuels and combustion and different ways of propelling things. But that technology is so far advanced. Like, all we know here for energy is electricity.
Mm-hmm.
That's one energy in the entire universe.
Mm-hmm.
So what those craft are is they're using another type of energy, and I forget what that's called. Should I say that?
Phalon.
Wanted to say that? Okay, so it is Phalon energy, which is the second energy of 20.
Okay, and could that be maybe the byproduct of this type of energy is maybe these orbs and the way that they appear to us coming through this third dimension? Are they potentially interdimensional, but then, they're kind of breaking down kind of the veil of our reality, and now we're able to see them for some reason? Are they, because you see like the wheels inside of the wheels, and that's like, growing up Christian, Ezekiel saw the wheel way up in the middle of the sky, and it's these rotating wheels inside wheels. You have, petroglyphs that show Native Americans here in the U.S. where you see these wheels within wheels. Some of these plasmas, when you really get up, they had the guy shooting with an A7S Mark II or Mark III, really, really great video camera. The guy got some incredible shots with one of these plasmoids, these plasma balls. And so this energy, maybe the plasma is some kind of a byproduct potentially of this energy system. I mean, is that what we're looking at here?
I don't think there's any byproduct from the way those move. It's like it's here and then it's here. It's not going through time like we have to travel through time.
Linearly. We're moving through space. Where they're maybe potentially folding space and folding a piece of paper, they go straight through instead of the whole linear distance of a 3D space.
I wonder, if we as humans start getting a hold of some of these technologies, what we're going to do with them. Right now, humans, what they show is they get a new technology, they use it for war.
Exactly.
And we've tried to build quite a few structures and things to help the community. Of course, we bump up into financial thing. Everything costs money and time. And we have to build it. But then if we have somebody who wants to sponsor it or fund it, as soon as we start, then it's they want to own it. They want to possess it. So we've lost a few projects because we've done them on other people's properties. They got a sense of what it was, and then they wanted to own it. And all the technologies that we have are for community. It's not for an individual.
Right.
If it is if one individual tries to take it or run with it, it will destroy them. It has to be community to hold that. So, as we move forward, we have to have that kindness, compassion, and happiness, or we're going to tear everybody apart.
Right. And that's why the Vedas and the ancient Hindu texts, until really recently, they just started pretty much writing those down. They were handed down through generations and generations orally. I'm feeling like maybe in a similar way that your teachers, family, and ancestors have. In a similar way, the ancient Hindus, the story of Shiva going back 15,000 years, and the yogic traditions and all of the different practices that they had. I mean, virtually just recent. And then what do you see now? Columbus, Ohio, the Aveda Institute. They make bank off of selling ancient Vedic systems for healing and, hair care, skin product, all of these things. And that was a part of the Vedas, and why they never wrote anything down, because it had to be passed down from father to son down the line, because as soon as you take it and give it to somebody you don't know, they try to turn a buck on it. And then that whole tradition is just gone. Is that what we're talking about here?
I think that's a small part of it. There's this, want for power, money, part of that. But controlling something, or seeing the power of something and you think you can have it. And so that's what we've experienced with some of our technologies. But, I was just that story you're talking about reminded me, we went to the World Parliament of Religion. And it was huge. There was lots of different just religions from all over the world that gathered in Toronto. And we had gone to one of the floors where people were doing demonstrations or talking about, their beliefs. And so we're having conversations. And there's this one that was really decorated, and there was gold and it looked really fancy. There was like ropes, so you couldn't go in. And there was three girls sitting there, and they had these blindfolds on. And so the woman was saying, "Oh, these girls have this power. They were from India, and they've opened their third eye, and they can read. They could read a book blindfolded." And so people would go and sit on the carpet, you take off your shoes and go in on the fluffy carpet, and then you like write something down, and then the girls would read it. And I'm like, wow, that's pretty interesting. And they were promoting the school in India. So that they said that's where they went. They learned these skills through these teachings. And so my teacher, I was there with a few people, and he said to, pay attention. Like, what are they doing? Like, is this real? Like, how are they doing this? And he asked if he could do something, and they're like, no, they wouldn't let him in. So they only let like a few people in. So then the other person I was with, Matt. So Matt was there, and he had his camera, and so he started recording, and then they shut the thing down.
Oh, of course.
Like, no. So then he's trying to interview the person who was, inviting people to come, and they wouldn't share anything. And so we went back the next day, and they wouldn't set up. Like, they were supposed to start at 9, and so we were there watching, because I was still curious. They had really fancy chairs. I was thinking, well, maybe they have like some kind of like tapper Morse code, or like something in their ear. So they had like, really decorated earrings, but I couldn't tell. So I wanted to like watch, like, how are they doing this? Like, are they really seeing through their third eye to read what people are writing? And so they wouldn't do it while we were there. So we left. And then later that day, we were in the hallway, and the three girls were coming down the stairs. And my teacher's like, hey, watch, hey, there they are. Let's go talk to them. And so we went over, and he was doing a sleight of hand with a big silver coin. So it's like, big silver coin. If they can read a book with a blindfold, they can surely find this coin with their eyes open. And they did a few simple, like, sleight of hand things. And
oh yeah, I've seen that in action. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, like, okay, guess which hand,
Yeah.
right? So two say this hand, one says this hand, and then I'm like, wait a minute. So they can read a book blindfolded, they can, do all these things, but they can't find this coin that, they're actually like there and looking. And they were quickly rushed away. And when we went back, there were flyers on the table. Like, they were doing this demonstration to invite people to India, and it was $10,000 to do that course.
Of course.
So they were setting up this trick, saying they have these special magical powers. Anybody can have them. You just have to pay $10,000 and go do this retreat. And they had schools. Maybe one was in Ohio. There was one in the U.S. somewhere. But when I saw that, I got I don't know, so sad. Like, these girls were probably 13, or, they were pretty young. And then they're like trying to sell something, and it's set up as a trick. So it's like, tricking the world. And we run into that so much, like with spirituality and different things going on. And, I just, I wish that we could just have like kindness and compassion, and, money gets in the way. It changes people. Even like having differing beliefs, it makes people awful sometimes. Like with the presidential elections, I talked to a woman today. She had a sign for, whatever side she was on her own property. And her neighbors came over, and she invited them for tea. She thought they were coming to visit. And she said they spent 4 hours telling her how, like, she was wrong and they were right, and she should take her sign down. And then later somebody like vandalized. She had a business, so she had a business sign out there, and they tore that all apart just because she put that, like, what she believed out on her own property. And so yeah, I think going forward, it's like, how do we see truth? How do we find the truth? How do we see each other, with kindness and compassion, even though we have differing beliefs? How can we work together? How can we, build, like, those ancient technologies, those ancient pyramids? Those are no longer active, but we keep going there and, like, worshiping them. We could actually build something that could work, that could help our communities, that could just change the way that we are on the earth, could protect us from meteors or whatever coming into our atmosphere. Like, we could do all that, but we're not looking forward. We're looking at the past. We're looking behind us and almost like, worshiping it. We forgot who we are as spiritual people on the planet. And I hope we can change that by choice before anything else happens, where we have to do something different.
Yeah, I mean, even 10 years ago, if somebody had this belief, you didn't hate them. I mean, you have people literally calling for the death of people that believe something different. I'm never going to talk to you again. Don't even think about coming to Christmas, Thanksgiving. Don't come to my birthday. I hate you for thinking this way. It's 10 years ago. Yeah, you might vote this way. I might vote that way. But in the end, we can still have a beer. We can still smoke a J together. We can still break bread together. And now it's I hope it's taking a turn and turning the corner, because, hey, politics is a very, very tiny thing that we should be concerned about right now, and whose side who's on. There are way bigger things at play right now that are unfolding, I think, that we're seeing with this drone UAP phenomenon. And people still have they're still worried about the election that happened in early November, when, I go to Thanksgiving or Christmas and nobody's aware of this UAP drone phenomenon. Now, the internet, TikTok, X, all the people that are on there, it seems like everybody's aware of this, and it's been on the news. But for the most part, the general public has no idea that this stuff is really going on. You don't hear about it, people really talking about it. I mean, we all have buddies and friends, but we're kind of in this world, and so are you guys. So a lot of people that are talking about this, but are people, for the most part, do they care that all this is happening, Jaclyn, at all? That worries me.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people don't care, but maybe they don't know, like, the gravity of it all.
Yeah.
It seems people tend to like their comfort. You're comfortable in your routine, comfortable going to work. Like, it doesn't hurt bad enough to change.
Right.
We usually change if it gets to that point where it's like, I can't tolerate this anymore. I can't stand this anymore. I'm going to make a change. I'm going to do something different. That's like the breaking point. When do people change? When, they're comfortable. But there's got to be some kind of, like, push or event.
Oh, man, I wish that wasn't the case. It's like, what do we need? Another 9/11? Do we need another COVID for people really to? I mean, Ronald Reagan said it. If alien beings came down, we would sure forget about our differences pretty darn quick. Those imaginary lines that we divide everything with countries, people wouldn't be so concerned. We would come together as human beings on Earth if we ever faced an alien threat. And this seems like one of the things that they're really pushing too, is the fear that there are these kind of dark, malevolent aliens or non-human intelligence that are, whether it's the reptilians or the tall whites, and then you have the grays, and to me, it's so much disinformation right now. Operation Bluebeam, Project Bluebeam. I can never find any documentation that was ever actually a real like MK Ultra. You can research. The CIA that was a real program. I've never been able to find the validity of Project Bluebeam, but it's sort of used as this kind of catch-all for a fake alien invasion operation that they're running. To me, I feel like that is kind of some faction is pushing this fear right now. And maybe we should be afraid. Maybe there is something, are there positive beings here that are here? Like what we were talking about earlier with this nuclear threat. Are there beings coming here or that have been here that are trying to help us in some way?
Well, a couple things. We're humans, so we think like humans. So other beings, other civilizations, maybe they don't have that positive or negative mindfulness, that kind of thing. That's completely human.
Right.
There's like, perhaps they're doing things because we share this planet. They're not doing it for us. They're doing it for, the planet or themselves, their civilization. There's, a civilization that we've attacked over the years, and they haven't attacked back.
We've attacked humans?
Yeah, the humans.
Really?
And we don't even know it. There's like the nuclear tests around the world, like those are done in specific areas of the world. And
so you don't think they're tests? You think we're attacking a civilization potentially?
Yes.
Okay. Well, Dulce, New Mexico, you hear about the Dulce Wars. People have thought for years that was a big giant conspiracy, but you can't actually find documentation, and something happened in Dulce, New Mexico. There was some kind of battle. All I can tell is that's one story. So have there been other instances where we've come against another group that's not necessarily human? That's happening, you're saying?
Yeah, if you look at where the testing sites were, it's just interesting where those are chosen. And like the rest of there could be these tests being done and humans on the planet don't even know about it. So there's been a lot that was like, and why are they doing that? How much damage are they doing with those? It's just
the deep ocean tests are wild. Like showing those nukes going off under that can't be good. What are they blowing up nukes underneath the ocean? Maybe there's one of them bases down there.
Yeah, I don't know, but I don't. Yeah, and then like with the mass hysteria thing, like you were saying, it's like, okay, well, people saw something, they reported something, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh no, this is mass hysteria. They're reporting planes, they're reporting drones. So then that puts that in the minds of people, like, oh, it's just people seeing regular things and they're freaking out. So like adding this like mass hysteria into the mix, it changes the way that people think. And I think that was done on purpose, like using the words drones takes it from UAPs or UFOs and makes it, back to that human thing. And so now we don't even know what we're talking about. There's just so much stuff, and
it's layered of horse crap, layered with truth, layered with crap, layered with truth. They put a little bit of truth in there. They squeak in a little bit of, the guy that came out early on and said, oh, there's a Iranian mothership. Come on, bro. Who is feeding that guy that information? I mean, I would be shocked. But then you have a report of 50 of these things coming out of the ocean. Those are not drones. Those things looked very, very different. And the military, the reports, and you can hear what the air traffic controllers and different people were saying when those drones were coming out of the ocean. These are transmedium craft. something else is going on. That's not just drones. That's the buzzword, like I said in the intro. And we were talking about this too, is when we covered it a few weeks back. At that point, that was the main thing, was the UAP drone phenomenon is kind of what I titled that episode, because I even had a sense that, boy, the media is really just talking about drones. But on TikTok and X and Instagram, you're seeing these home videos of people's iPhones and, really good photographs of something way beyond drones. So I want to leave this with you. This has been an amazing conversation. We've gone all over the place with this, but if there's anything that our listeners and the people at home, that maybe people are sharing this episode and it strikes a nerve, and is there anything that your teacher or the council or anybody that you guys need people to hear right now in this moment going into the next year of 2025?
I think that one of the big things is recognizing that we're not alone. And we've been talking about this for a number of years. I remember my teacher saying the next step in spiritual evolution is you understanding you're not alone. And I think that can be taken in so many different ways. We're not just individuals, we're not just we have people around us, we have community, we have a whole world. But there's also more to this world that we don't see. And we do receive communications from these other civilizations. And sometimes we need technology to understand what that message is or what that information is. We have a few different messages that we've translated and put out there at our different events. That is part of the information that we've been gathering, and it's really about community. We can't hear beyond ourselves without having community. So looking up at each other, looking up at the sky, coming together, being together. We don't even know what community is right now. We have an idea. Maybe it's, we think, oh, these people think like me, so we have a community. What we need is that diversity, the different perspectives, to see the whole sphere, or the whole, I don't know, whatever shape we're looking at, all the different angles, because you see something different than I see. Everybody around the world, they'll see something different. But as a community, we build more of an antenna so that we can receive and understand that information more. We're receiving signals from space all the time. There's many, many, many of them. The WOW signal, maybe that's one, but there's a lot. There's a lot that was received by NASA that they haven't shared with us. There's so much information going on beyond where we just are. So I think now is the time we really need to get together, forget the differences. And if we want to be here for more years to come, we should listen.
I love it. Listen to each other. Be kind. I remember sitting in a talk of one of your teacher, and people always want to talk about, it's all about the love, man. You got to spread love. And the message I always hear from you guys is kindness, and that's it. The love is almost like this. It's like a thing that you can say but you don't necessarily have to like put in the effort to, you can just say, it's all love, man. You know, it can be hollow, but it actually takes acts of kindness. And that's actually something where, you know, you can look someone in the eye and hold a door open for someone and say, hey, have a good day. And you get that little act of kindness is so much more powerful than just saying, oh, it's, you know, we're all one, we're all love. And it seems a little bit more hollow, but to actually be kind to somebody seems really tough for some people. And hey, if my head's not in the right place, I'm looking down, I'm in the grocery store, I'm just trying to get my fruit and my snacks or whatever I'm there for. And I'm guilty of it too. But, you know, where I grew up is, you know, you wave to people when you're driving down the road. People in my neighborhood, I wave at everybody that I drive past in the road. And everybody knows me as the guy that waves to everybody. So I've always loved that message that you guys have pushed out there, that message of kindness, because I think it's way underutilized, which you guys call a technology, and I think it's right on. I think it is a technology. But this has been a beautiful conversation. And one thing I did forget to mention is Jaclyn's also an amazing artist too. You have incredible jewelry. You're an author. And so if you want to maybe talk a little bit about where we can find you, we appreciate your time so much, your teacher's time, the council, everybody behind the scenes there, appreciate all of you very, very much. And I'm hoping to hang out with you guys in person soon. But the floor is yours. Jaclyn, again, thank you.
Thank you, Mikey. Yeah, we should have a cup of tea together. Yeah. Yeah, I have a website that has jewelry and my book, and I have a Patreon. On the Patreon, I've been writing about my travels with the teacher and different lessons that I've learned. So I'm constantly updating that with new information.
Beautiful.
So those are, the 2 places online, and then we do a lot here in Maine and the Northeast.
Absolutely. And with your permission, we can put those and link those in the description. And you sent those ahead of time. So if anybody's interested in some awesome jewelry and Jaclyn's book, definitely head there. And again, much love to you guys and everybody out there. But you've been amazing. This has been an awesome conversation that I won't ever forget. And we appreciate your guys' time. But don't go anywhere, Jaclyn. I'm going to come back and give you a proper goodbye. I'm going to send the show off. We're going to put this baby to bed. I'll be back.
Thank you, Maggie.
All right. Well, guys, there you go. I hope that we can continuously, one of the big things is we're always trying to keep building on trying our best to understand, along with everybody out there, what is going on with this UAP phenomenon. Number one, since this show started, we've been following the congressional hearings and the reports and the document dumps the best we can. We're going to continue with that. That's one of our missions, because I've always felt that this whole phenomenon is really not being talked about enough, even though it is being out there more and more kind of in the public, which in the last 10 years, I think the last 3 years, we've made more progress than ever. But that's what this was about tonight. Maybe we get a perspective that just not Mikey and Bub and Stoner's theories of throwing out ideas. Maybe we can get some folks that have done some research and have some answers. And that's what we're going to continue to do for all you guys out there in 2025. Because guess what? It's going to get a lot weirder, y'all. It's going to get a lot more strange. And we're already off to the races in 2025. We appreciate the hell out of each and every one of you for all your support. Make sure you hit that like, subscribe, and you got to hit the notification bell. Keep sharing all of these episodes to all your friends. Check out, we're on TikTok. We got the Discord, the Facebook group. We're on Instagram @The Strange Road. I always feel like I'm missing something else. But oh yeah, X. We've definitely posting a lot more. Hey, we've been posting a lot more for you guys on all the platforms. Big shout out to Little Comb, my nephew. Big shout out to Stoner the Loner and Master Control. And we wish Bub was here tonight, but we wish him all the best and safe travels home. Much love. Take care, guys. We're out.